Let me go ahead and call this regular meeting of the Operations Planning Committee to order for Monday, July 15th, 2024. Thanks everybody for coming. Let's go ahead and get started with, does anybody have any time constraints? No? Okay. Tracy, let's get started with you.
Thank you so much. I thought today I would just give a quick little update on a few things that are, so as we've gone through session, starting July 1, several of the acts that we implemented now take place. So I thought I would just maybe highlight a few of those that people may want to know about. And particularly since a lot of people are traveling, I thought I would focus this time on some of the transportation ones. As you may know, there was a pilot program that we put through, and it expired at the end of December 2023, that would allow for work zone speed cameras on the interstate. So this is if you are speeding through a work zone, the camera could then detect you. And at that time, if you were 15 over, then you'd be subject to fines. That is going into place. Again, we struggle with safety of people doing work on our interstates. So that is now in legislation, and they are lowering the speed limit from 15 miles an hour to 10 miles an hour. So please, while you are out traveling, and if you are on the interstate, or if you're going through a work zone area, please be cautious and slow down for safety, and now also for fines. The other one, and I've had some complaints about this as well, when there are service changes or fare changes on our Metro North. People get really frustrated because they seem to come out of the blue, and we don't seem to have much information or transparency on when they happen. So the new law that went into place and was in effect July 1st is that if there is a scheduled change, that they are to provide 15 days notice to the Transportation Committee or Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committees before their public hearing. So we will be notified, and then we can help notify the public as well. And the last one I thought I would inform everybody about was we have a pesticides on the railway right-of-way. So what this does is it makes more transparency on what herbicides that we're allowed to put on our Metro North on the rail lines. We do understand that there's safety aspects for people trying to come in and manually remove trees, weeds, branches. So for safety reasons, sometimes herbicide is used, but this expands the type of information that is given for the vegetation management by these groups. And then it requires them to develop and subject to public comment yearly operational plans. And then it does impose methods of area-specific restrictions on these right-of-ways. So I think a lot of our environmentally friendly people were really pleased with this, and this went into effect also July of this year. There are many more things that went into effect, and you can please check out my website and contact me if you have questions. I think that's all I've got, unless people have questions for me.
Two for me. Are the speed cameras around work sites active 24/7, or are they active only when the work site is populated with workers?
You know what? I do not know the answer to that. Thank you. I will look into that and find out. That is a really good question.
And how did I thought the impetus for scheduling the separate session was to resolve some discrepancies and leftover from unfinished work related to car tax. How did that sorted out, and what would you say the impact on Darien car taxpayers is?
So thank you. There's not going to be much impact on Darien car taxpayers at all. But I looked at our grand list and to see how it was affected. What this does is it gives people with their cars reliable depreciation over time. Before, our cars were assessed. Now, this is only the assessment because, as you know, that the cars would be taxed locally by the municipality. So it doesn't change the car tax, it changes the assessment of the car. And it pegs the assessment with the manufacturer's price and then has a set depreciation over time.
And that's fixed for each car, based on its manufacturer's retail price. Doesn't matter what you paid for it. I guess it doesn't even matter at what point you bought it. So if you bought it 3 years into the life of the car, you would have the manufacturer's retail price less whatever the scheduled depreciation is, and that's the value against which you're taxed, correct?
It's supposed to add, the thought is that it adds more reliability on what you're expecting to pay with your cars, because certainly over COVID, we saw the value of used cars went up. So then people's taxes were going up too. So it was supposed to prevent that from happening.
So I should buy an extremely nice 50-year-old car, is that right?
You should for many reasons.
Oh, well. Okay.
Extremely.
There you go. Any other questions for Tracy? Okay, Tracy, thank you. Mr. Palin.
Hey guys, it's Jim here. Not much to kind of report from my side. We have one of our regular scheduled meetings tomorrow night. I would say it's a relatively light sort of agenda. There's a couple of transfers that we're approving, and John, we're going to be dealing with the bid package for Paragraph 3 and so forth. But relatively light work on our side here. It does look like the staff is in the process of kind of closing out our 2024 budgets to see where some of the things where we need to make estimates around like sort of Board of Ed surplus, town surplus, investment earnings, a lot of things there. We, as of what we know now, we don't see any sort of material moves one way or another. So everything's kind of shaking out, generally where we expected. So not much else to really report from our side.
Very good. Questions for Jim or any comments? Okay, Jill.
Thank you, John.
Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a pretty quiet season for us as well now. This is when we do a lot of our hiring. We actually have a special meeting on Wednesday to consider an AP for Oxbridge, an AP for when I say AP, excuse me, assistant principal for Oxbridge and for the high school. And we're looking at a department chair for English. I don't have much to report on our end of year budget in terms of any changes there. We have our yearly all-day meeting on the 23rd. And we're hosting a Kids in Crisis Summit on Monday from 9 to 11. That's something Kids in Crisis does every year, but we're hosting this year. John, I know Alan reached out to you. I'll be there. I'd love to see if you can. I think what is most newsworthy in terms of what's going on at the schools is what's happening on the construction front. HHR is fully underway. That this summer, what that means is work on the new additions, which includes knocking down the libraries at Henley and Royal, some interior classroom work, the beginnings of that, some work in the corridors and the ceilings, taking down some of the portables, and utility work is the general thrust of it. Things are moving forward as expected so far, but of course we're only a few weeks in. Still excited to be moving forward. We've heard a few things from neighbors here, there, and the other place, but all in fairly quiet, and we're taking it one question at a time.
Okay. Let's see, Steve or Seth. Well, I will go ahead with my report. Just a couple interesting things. One, as everybody knows, we approved the selection of Reed Hildebrand as our consultant for Great Island. I had a chance separately to meet with Becca Sturgis, who's the partner leading that effort for the firm. She and Monica and I sat down and had dinner and talked through this. I guess one of the things that came out of that I want to reassure everybody who's watching is that their process really works through iteration with the public. In other words, they're completely focused on ensuring that there is a thoughtful way to collect and incorporate feedback from the people who are paying for this property and are going to have to live with it once the work has been done. And the great thing about that is that they're not just going to collect that feedback, but they're going to help shepherd and shape it and add to it and help it become more creative, more practical, more useful, more efficient. And so it's through that iteration that will take a little bit of time that you'll end up with something that you feel was facilitated and executed by real experts with deep experience in properties like this, but at the same time takes great care in making sure that input from the public is incorporated in a thoughtful way. So everybody watching should take part from the fact that these people really are dedicated to making sure that public input is taken and taken seriously. So I felt good after that meeting that that's something that of high importance for a long time. The second update to provide is on the proposed cannabis facility. This is proposed to be located at the boatyard at Smoky Joe's, which is the barbecue place that sits just inside the Stanford border on the river, right at the post road between Stanford and Darien. So for folks who've been following this, the proposal has been that there be an establishment of a cannabis dispensary at that location that would replace the restaurant that is currently located there. After considerable work by both the boards as well as protest efforts by various groups in the public, the Stanford Zoning Board approved the application for Nautilus Botanicals to establish that dispensary at that location. Since that approval, a group has filed an appeal, and that appeal process starts with the filing, but gets underway more seriously towards the end of the summer and into the fall. It's a process that could take a year to a year and a half, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that an appeal has been filed in that process and that there is certainly more to come on that. If you're interested in further information, you're welcome to contact me. The second or third area to update everybody on is WestCog, or our Western Council of Governments, of which Darien is part of, has been pursuing a noise abatement study for a while, and this noise abatement study pertains to the New Canaan branch line off of Metro North. And what's happening there is that along the stops from Stanford up to New Canaan, those stops are, several of them have crossing gates, but the way it works is that the train, when they cross, when those trains cross, they sound their horns, and they do it anytime the train crosses, early in the morning or very late at night. And a number of residents have complained about it, particularly now that the new trains are in place, and they are louder, their horns at least are louder than the ones on the old trains. And so that study has nearly wrapped up. There's going to be a presentation of those findings sometime likely in September. As soon as I know the date of that, I will let everyone know, and I will be there myself to assist with that and then to answer questions about next steps. Fourth quick update is I had a chance to walk with Chris Filmer and Elizabeth Malthus, who's the director over at the Land Trust of Selleck's Woods and Dunlap's Woods late last month. And I have to say, if you've not been out there, it's kind of a remarkable place. It's not a park area that's actually well used, but the most amazing thing about it is how much Chris Filmer himself does to ensure that natural beauty is maintained. And if you didn't have a full appreciation for just how powerful nature is and what an important component it is of our community, go take an afternoon and just go for a stroll in Selleck's Woods and see what he's laid out there. There's pathways. He has actually little cutout drawings of different types of bird and animal species that you might find there, so that you know not generally what they look like, but also kind of what size they would be if you were to spot them. And he's placed them all in strategic areas in one particular location. And it's just amazing to see sort of one person's dedication to that area. And it's a great treasure. I enjoyed my time there very much, and I will be back. Special thanks to Sue Ann Shore, Navy Captain Sue Ann Shore, former Representative Terry Wood, and former First Selectman Jamie Stevenson for their work again this year in organizing the Darien Independence Day celebration at the Darien High School on July 4th. A great event, and everybody had an even better time at the push and pull parade. Afterwards, it was once again a hard decision to decide which families were the most patriotic and which bikes looked the greatest and all that. But certainly great to spend time with those kids and see everybody having a good time. I'm sure sorry that the fireworks got postponed from their late date of July 12th to an even later date of July 19th, but they didn't want to take a chance with the weather that particular day. We are looking to see if fireworks can be moved to be sooner. Frankly, it's a question of availability. A lot of the folks who do this kind of work and that have availability to do that work for us, they are fully subscribed. It's going to be worse in the coming years with sports festivals and the nation's 250th birthday in 2026. All that gets more complicated in terms of trying to get availability right on or around July 4th, but we're mindful of that, and we will try to address that in the coming years. Last thing is I wanted to propose to this group, or just state, I guess, that I think it would be valuable to make a membership addition. And so I'm going to propose that we add the chairman of Parks and Rec to this group. And even though Parks and Rec is an appointed commission, there's literally so much going on with that. And so much of it is public facing and fast moving that I thought we would bring the chairman of Parks and Rec into this group and let that person, currently Lori Boris, the chairman of Parks and Rec, to provide a quick perspective on all of our parks facilities. I think that's important for a few reasons, not just the sheer number of parks that we have, but because of all the construction, the potential intersection with nature and other issues with regard to the design of some improvements that we're looking to make, as well as just generally the importance of our parks. It might be good for the public to sort of hear directly and then to hear the kind of questions that we would have for Lori. So I spoke to her about that today, and I propose that we bring her into start including her on the August agenda, and when she can come to those meetings in the future. So I think it will actually add to the discussion. So I'd like to run an experiment with that. So anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah, John, I would just say that I think that's a great idea. I think we've got close to 300 acres of sort of open space that people are increasingly using. I feel like it's an increasing part of our kind of daily activity. I still feel like we put schools here, and I feel like parks used to be way down here, and they've certainly, I think, moved up in terms of the importance and the money that we're spending and so forth. So I think it'd be a great addition, Lori and and her commission.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Two last things. The state did reactivate its hot weather protocols for starting today. Actually, tomorrow the high in Darien is supposed to be 95. Not unusual for somebody like me from Texas, but very unusual for this part of the country. So I would urge everybody to take appropriate precautions. I did send out a note to Town Hall today asking everyone to dress cool and casual but professional tomorrow, given the heat of the day. And I might not even have on a tie tomorrow, as difficult as that is for some people to believe. Or I might have on a polo shirt with a tie. I mean, who knows what I'll do. The only other thing that we need to do is to approve the minutes from our June 17th meeting. I have read through them and I had no corrections on my end. Does anybody have any corrections to any of the minutes? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion to approve those minutes as drafted? Jim moves. Jill seconds. All in favor? Okay, very good. All right, minutes are approved. I do not have any other business. Kate, is there anything else?
Yeah, just wanted the audio upgrades in the auditorium have been completed, and we had a little lesson this morning in how to use them. And the first meeting that will be incorporating them is going to be tomorrow night's P&Z meeting. vastly improved over what we've had in the past. So I'm really excited about it.
So I was nosy and went down there briefly myself today. Kate is understating the improvement. I mean, the sound quality, all these microphones, the backlit screen that we have for this, it is going to take us from the late 17th century to the 21st century in terms of our ability to record, project sound, show presentations. It's a great improvement. So thank you to Kate and everybody who was involved in the design and setup of that. Money well spent, particularly anybody who has to watch these meetings or try to understand what's being said. You're going to see it's a vast improvement. So great thing. Thanks, Kate. Anything else? Okay, I think we are done. Motion to adjourn. Okay, Jill and Jim. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you, John. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks all.